This summer's hottest shows are at Wolf Trap. Grab your cooler, a blanket, and your crew for an unforgettable summer of live music. Tickets are on sale now for more than 50 of your favorite bands at wolftrap.org.
Hi there, I am Adam Kirbas. I am here in Turkey, Ordu, in the Black Sea region. It is still the pandemic, and I hope everyone is doing fine. This is my podcast, and it is the seventh episode. The last time we talked about significant transformations, and I realized that we have to talk a bit more about Marxist definition of transformation, because the Marxist definition, it is not only of transformation but as well as about change, is very important within the literature, and I decided it indeed demands further attention. But to say something beforehand is that I read Marx in German. It is in German you have pretty much free access to Marx, despite the fact that Marx was exiled and lived in Great Britain. His works are mostly written in German, and it is somehow difficult to translate from the German originally into English, especially some certain keywords. Marxism works with those keywords. Those keywords are in a way important, but if you translate them from German into English, they somehow become muddied up. This is not really, it is not very accurate, and German, especially, it's never accurate. I mean, if you translate from one German, for one language into another, there are always some meaning, there's always some divergence in the meaning, in the understanding. However, I mean, I tried to translate some of the important vocabularies, but then later I gave it up out of the simple reason. I mean, this is not a philosophical inquiry whatsoever. This is just a very fast summary. And I mean, I wrote even a seminar paper about Marx, especially his most important work. This is the das Kapital in German, and everyone who is a Marxist or is interested in Marxism should read it. I mean, you don't even have to be interested in Marxism. Like I said before, it is one of the attempts to understand an economic system. This is one of the few attempts we have. I mean, like I said, you don't have to like Marx. You can say whatever you want against him, but one thing you have to give to him, that this deep analysis is pretty much unmatched even within the Marxism. So I don't know any work which even comes close to the depth of Marx's works, not even Friedrich Engels. I mean, those who know a little bit about leftism, Marxism, know that Friedrich Engels and Marx had, despite the fact that they are collaborated, they had a different perception. They came partially from a different thought school, however. But again, I say Marx was in some instances inaccurate, and today I want to talk about one of these inaccuracies. This was that he predicted the downfall of the capitalistic system. Well, it did not happen, and some reasons why we will talk about it in a way or whatever. But first, it is important to talk about this change and what would lead to a to a proletarian dictatorship, this overthrow of the capitalistic system. Please mark, this is not only in the Marxist literature. This term is as well as used to explain the change of society, the change of some issues within the society, the social structure, and so on. And again, the Marxist understanding of the capitalistic system was, I will give a brief overview, that the society is led by the allocation of money, so everyone is part of it. The capitalistic system is actually, this is very important, not led by capitalist itself or by the capitalist. Rather, the system works on its own, somehow like a tornado or something like that, and which then sucks in all those elements. And the main driving force here is to the allocation of money. So this leads to a production. So every capitalist competes with each other and wants to produce more and more goods, but of course then this leads to a saturation. This means that fewer and fewer products can be distributed, fewer and fewer buyers can be found, and this leads to an overproduction. This is what you want to call a bubble. This leads to an overproduction, and then in the end to the downfall of the capitalistic system. I mean, this was a very brief and short overview, and then eventually this would be the time where then the workers would gather all together, would build unions, and then dictate a new terms of a society. I mean, this is what pretty much actually what happened in the French Revolution, and Marx pretty much gives this or reiterates this. And if you see or if you read a little bit of the French Revolution, there are very great audio books. For example, I've been listening to one, and if you read, there were actually parts of the French Revolution an attempt which would came close to Marxist or in a communistic constitution, but it never made it. And Marx somehow reiterates this, that the people would take over and then dictate the terms of a free society. I mean, we all know where the French Revolution led to. This was brutal terror, and in the end, and this all ended in the restoration. However, what I want to talk about is the problems of this assumption of this overproduction, and why I think that this was not true. It is not only my perception, but indeed, please note, there are a lot of literature about Marx. I mean, Marx is one of the most cited as well as hated philosophers. So you will find a lot about him. Of course, in German, you will find more in German. And I've noticed some of the discussions in German are actually more accurate. They go more into the depth because of the language, because Marx wrote in English, wrote in German, mostly wrote in German. However, but I will again summarize them. It is my goal is to make everyone understand. Well, since I talked the last time of significant changes. Well, the first critique is that Marx, in a way, saw that workers would come together and build a union, but what Marx did not see see was that the business class as well as the entrepreneurs would come together as well. For Marx, it was somehow that every capitalist, every business owner hates the guts of each other, and they would compete against each other no matter what, and this would in the end lead to its downfall. I mean, there's one very great German socialist, Max Weber. Again, this is worth reading, but he wrote. This was again all in German. I don't know how much you have access to in English. However, and he wrote that this is actually not the case, and it is indeed not the case. And I can give you an example from Austria, my home country. And in Austria, in my home country, the business association and the entrepreneurs, they indeed created some sort of a union for entrepreneurs. This is called the Wirtschaftskammer. And in this, it is rather conservative elements. No, actually, that's not true. It is for reasons I will explain maybe later. It is both parties take part in it, but this is a union, the Wirtschaftskammer, which is built for business owners, and this is part of the Sozialpartnerschaft in Austria. And this Sozialpartnerschaft has somehow two wings. One wing is the Wirtschaftskammer, the business owners, and the second wing is the workers' union. And this is some sort of an institution in Austria where then people, workers as well as businessmen come together and talk about issues, political issues. I mean, this is some sort of a union in Austria. I cannot go into detail about the Sozialpartnerschaft, but nevertheless, please note that this is very important, that I will probably have to talk about it as well, because this in Austria, at least, this is my perception, the Sozialpartnerschaft, or in general the union, somehow loses its purpose if representatives of the workers' union as well as representatives of the entrepreneur union belong to the same party. This is the case in Austria. This is even further. There is even further tension, because in Austria, as well as in many European countries, many companies are state-owned, and those posts within the companies, those CEOs, they mostly rise through the ranks because they are member of a party. However, I am not against the workers' union. I was never against the workers' union, but in Austria, you see that somehow workers' unions, especially if this is some sort of an blurry construct, which is the case in Austria, that you do not see what is really behind, what's been going on behind the scenes. It is undemocratic, and since everyone is in a way a puppet of the parties, so this is you have to be aware that this somehow is against the purpose of a union, because a union, especially a workers' union, is indeed in some instances necessary to help workers, not to be exploited. But if this then becomes some sort of is being under the umbrella of one party or two, then this is somehow loses its purpose. However, to cut things short, I think I need to talk about this, why you or how you can even, and this is possible, to drive a workers' union into extremes so that it somehow does not suit the purpose of the workers and so on. However, but what Marx as well as did not consider were actually monopolies. And the monopolies are this is in one branch. This is mostly one company which rules the entire branch. Think about Standard Oil back in the days with Rockefeller, or today with Amazon and Google as well as Facebook. These companies rule their branches. Amazon rules online retailers as well as transportation, or is on the way of creating a monopoly in transportation. And this somehow takes away the competitive element of the capitalistic system. And be aware that one crucial element of capitalism is actually competition, and that good capitalism doesn't only provide prosperity to a great number of people, but as well as enables everyone to compete in the market. And this is actually what did not happen, and this did not happen in the American Gilded Age. So those who know the history of America know that this was the big companies took over those cartels, and they somehow fixed prices. And what Marx didn't see as well is the consume society. Think about new fashion which comes out every year. I mean, you don't need to buy new clothes every year, yet everyone does it, somehow follows the trend. I mean, this is a huge market. Think about Zara, these clothes labels and so on. I mean, the owner of Zara is one of the wealthiest men in the world. So this is a huge business. And this false assumption is actually within the core of the Marxistic value assumption, which actually means that the capitalistic system would take those products which some sort of distort and transform their original purpose of use of these products, and would put it in some sort of a new system of measurements. Think about a metric system or those weight system, and in order to make it interchangeable as well as exchangeable in values. This is what the capitalistic system actually does, according to Marx. There is an original purpose of use of a product, like it's clothes, and then the capitalistic system takes it, puts it in some sort of a raster, measurements, some sort of a metric system, so that you can compare these clothes are worth. So your clothes are worth I don't know, one hunk of beef or whatever you want to see it. And this would actually lead to the distortion of value. What Marx talked about it a great deal. And this, but this somehow you have to be very careful of that, because this means that someone, and this is indeed a case for in today, if people would wear clothes only to keep warm, then we would all run around in khaki uniforms. I mean, this happened in communistic societies, like in China, partially happens, but behind the scenes, every one of them was fine designer labels, as well as in Cuba happened. I mean, Fidel Castro was mostly seen in this uniform and so on. But in reality, this is not the case. In reality, you do not wear your clothes to cover your body, or just to to keep, to keep warm. Clothes have become some sort of a good which to present yourself to the world, and there is even a very good German saying that means Kleider machen Leute. This means that your clothes say something about you, or they represent you in a way. Or think in today's area, think on Apple. I mean, Apple is a special case, and within the tech industry there is this discussion whether Apple is this really a tech company, and do they really live up to what they promise, or is Apple rather an accessory, like you would see a jewel? That's the reason why, or is this the reason why Apple phones, for example, or Apple products are so expensive? Because you do not pay money for the sheer mere product or its use. It is rather some sort of some sort of accessory, expensive accessory, a jewel. It's somehow is presents your life standard, your and as well as your financial state, you could say. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but you could say, and there is indeed a term for it in economics, some sort of a snob factor. You wanna buy the expensive phones, and Apples are one of the most expensive phones. You wanna buy those phones, show them around to show the world that you have economical clout, that you are wealthy or whatsoever. And you can compare this with clothes as well. I mean, you will not wear Gucci and Armani or what all these labels are just to keep yourself warm, because you could buy yourself cheap clothes as well. I mean, one thing Marx's prediction was maybe wrong, is because Marx analyzed industrial revolution in Great Britain, and in Great Britain the industrial revolution somehow developed differently than in continental Europe. But because in the beginning of the industrial revolution, especially with the steam engine, you actually did not need a special education, or you only had it to be skilled a little, skilled to somehow help yourself. And the first machines which were used were actually pretty much simple constructs, which the average Englishman could have made as well. So you do not need it to be a special craftsman. Whereas in continental Europe, things took off differently. First of all, in continental Europe, industrial revolution took off later, and then of course this is very understandable. If you have already a dominant force in the market, this was Great Britain, whose main goal was to produce in quantity, because Great Britain had India, and in India, and the English manufacturing was actually pretty much sophisticated. They had in the British Empire it was rather to produce in quantity, and in Europe, in continental Europe, people rather specialized in quality. So this means the system of capitalism in continental Europe was a bit different than in Great Britain. Think about today French products. They have, even to this very days, those French products, they have some sort of a flair of quality, of class. I mean, this comes from this area, or the Swiss products, Swiss watches, or chocolate or whatever. I mean, you don't need a watch just to tell you what time is it. A watch is as well as a very expression or your statement, your life statement. And we have even examples from recent histories. This is Japan. After the World Wars, Japan tried to flood the Western markets with cheap goods, but this didn't work out. Those goods were not reliable, and then later on, Japan switched to products which have more which were more qualitative, more sophisticated, and these products now became this trademark of Japanese products, that they are highly reliable and sophisticated. Only think about photo cameras. This market is pretty much dominated by or was dominated by Japanese companies on the eve of the smartphone. And China went through pretty much, or is still going through pretty much the same development, which you can see than the Japanese. So this means that products have always a value that is beyond its use. So even though the capitalistic system introduced some sort of a measurement so that you can determine what's valuable and what's not, in this case Marx was true or was right, but nevertheless Marx did not see that the capitalistic system, especially in the consume society we are living now, the value is put on a product which goes beyond its mere use, and this is in a way necessary. I mean, imagine if people would think of a product in its bare use. This would not only lead to a Spartan lifestyle, but as well as it would lead to a crumble of the society. I mean, it is necessary that people, no matter what people say in this state, it is necessary that people buy these goods and products so that you can guarantee economic growth. And this pretty much sums up the Marxist perception of change within the system. I mean, it did not come to that. The revolution of Russia was a very different one. This was not of overproduction. Russia was, as you know, rather a very underdeveloped society, and the Marxists long thought that Germany would be the place of this revolution, because in Europe, Germany was the most advanced economy back then, especially after the German unification in 1871, but then this did not come about. Neither was China. China was not really an industrialized country, and which then led to Mao Zedong announced that the peasants would be the carrier of the Marxist ideal and the Marxist revolution. I mean, however, what it is, and so it actually came never to fruition. It was rather war, famine, and technological development which really transformed society. And this brings me to the last point, that indeed, if you watch the development of human history, then it is rather that technological development somehow carries human development, human history. This is something you can see with agriculture, the invention of a new plow. This was as well as a new technological invention, and as well as later on in the industrial revolution, it was really that these new technological developments that they created always new markets. I mean, of course, if you would have thought, for example, in my youth, there wasn't no smartphones whatsoever. We all had a Nokia. This was back then, this Nokia 33, 10 and so on. I mean, everyone had this Nokia. We would play Snake on this Nokia, those old handies. I mean, of course, yeah, you would have thought if you only saw this phone, yeah, that one day the market will be saturated, despite the fact that in school some of my colleagues had 2 or 3 of these Nokias, but you somehow understood, I mean, why do you need more than one of these handies? And then later on, the smartphone came, especially the App Store, iPhone, iPhone then, or Apple created then a new market, this App Store, as well as a new market for apps for and to sell products, and this and from there on a new niche was opened, and then the consumption or the consume society could go on and continue. Or another great example is this is actually not very well known. This is only known by some business people who studied business. There's one great example. This is a Japanese example. This is Tamagotchi. This was back in my youth. This was some sort of a digital pet. This was, you had a real pet. I mean, this was you could hang this digital pet on your keys, and it was really like a pet. You had to feed it. I mean, this was all digital and so on, in a small screen. And this was the hit. I mean, it did not last long. It was just for a short period of time. Everyone wanted to have a Tamagotchi, especially the girls all went nuts. Then your pet, this is a digital pet, cries and so on. And it sold very good, and somehow it created this market, even though it was you might say not of much use, because, well, what do I need a digital pet for? It is rather an emotional satisfaction. The same is with video games. I mean, you don't need to play video games or whatever on the App Store for your survival or for whatsoever. Yet some people do, and this has created a huge market. And the same is as well as with if you only see the rise of the personal computer and so on. I mean, who would have thought back then that you need special educated people to maintain the personal computer? I mean, today this is Apple, Microsoft. They are one of the wealthiest companies in the world. But if you would have seen or would have lived at the time of John C. Rockefeller, then you would have thought, yeah, I should get my hand on resources, and anything else is just mere fake, and anything what's not which does not exist in reality is not worth pursuing. However, but this is all proven right. So that with the invention of the personal computers, a new market was created, as well as with the invention of the internet. Again, a new market was created about online shops, uh, online services, as well as online protection against viruses, online viruses, and so on. Then of course, then the smartphones and so on, and so forth. And now we have drones. Now everywhere are flying drones. So this will probably need special specialist as well. And of course, G5. Everyone is talking about G5, that it will be on its way. And with G5 come robots. G5 comes with artificial intelligence, but as well as with other stuff, with the Internet of Things we do not know about. And this again shows that technological development creates a new market, and this market then creates new its customers. This is some sort of from this Italian economer Pareto principle, if I recall correctly, which said that the product itself creates the demand. I mean, this is somehow you could understand this with this approach, that this market in a way creates its own a new market creates its new demand, creates new customers. And this is again the reason what Marx didn't see in his analysis of England. It was back then England what was highly industrialized, and then later on Great Britain, because he analyzed the first attempts of the Industrial Revolution, and if he would have analyzed then in continental Europe the development of Industrial Revolution, especially with the rise of the schools. This started in the French Revolution, or after the French Revolution, with the establishment of the polytechnical schools, which then really brought somehow know-how and further education to the people, and which then in later on, especially in Germany, led to the development of capitalism, but with the focus on high quality and so on. This was today's episode. Next time, promise, I wanna talk about the difference between now. Finally, then I wanna talk about the difference between baby boomers and then finally our millennials, the millennials who are in this social backdrop where I grew up in what this led to, and what the social conditions were. I mean, this is always difficult where and how to start it. I mean, I will think about it. Do you want to start it with the fall of the Berlin Wall, or earlier, later? I don't know. I mean, I have some sort of a notion, but one crucial thing for millennials is indeed the rise of the internet, the personal computer. I think this is significant if you only see how crucial social media has become in our age. I mean, I grew up without. I mean, of course, in my youth there was social media, but not smartphones. However, and another announcement I have to make is that I will probably have to make one episode in German, in my mother tongue. This is sadly, this has the reason because there are sadly enough still people out there who claim to be me, who sadly, especially I talked about this, that the crooked and system in Austria, as well as why Austria is a failed state. I think I will have to talk about this maybe a little bit in detail or not, but there are apparently some people who walk to a court and state that they would be Adam Kirbas and then make false statements as well as admit things which is beyond comprehension. I mean, this is an issue in Austria. In Austria, this is not. There are a lot of issues, and like I said before, one of the reasons why I made this podcast was to make clear to make clear that this is my voice, that no one should claim otherwise, but as well as out of protection. So in these days, some people, they are still audacious, and this has become really dangerous for me indeed. I mean, I stood next to someone. This is no joke. I mean, I am not overreacting. I stood face to face with a person who stood in front of who claimed he would be Adam Kirbas. Even here in Turkey, someone even went into a talk show. In this talk show, claimed he would be Adam Kirbas. So there are a lot of crooks and deceptive people around. They are still around. So I always thought this is clear. This issue was clear, that there is no doubt anymore who Adam Kirbas is. Well, apparently not. And this is, for me, these things are life-threatening. They were life-threatening in the past. I mean, I narrowly escaped death, and this was not only once. This was many times. And I thought that people have learned from their mistakes. Yet apparently it is not the case. I mean, I will make, and this means that that I will make one episode in German. I mean, I don't know what I will talk about. Maybe about this issue, but I have already insulted these people. I have already threw and hurled insults at these people from any language I know of. I already hurled insults at these people, really mean ones, and yet it apparently did not work. There are these people are still are dumb, are stupid, or just pathetic. I mean, one issue is clear, that someone who does that needs psychological help, attention, at least, and in some cases worse. And some of them, that there are dire people, or the people whom no one can really help. I mean, this person. I mean, if you steal someone's identity, this is an issue. I mean, there are of course issues. I mean, these were criminals who did this, pedophiles. Some of them are pedophiles who who wanted to avoid having registered as a sex offender in Austria. If you're a sex offender, if you're a pedophile, you have to register yourself in a special way. And these people, they try to avoid this. And this was one of the reasons why I was targeted. This was sadly enough. And I mean, but they of course had help from other instances as well. So it's not like that these people acted on their own. However, I mean, However, we will make this this German episode. So this was the end. This is the end. I hope you are doing fine. This was Adem Kirbas from Ordu, from Turkey. So if you meet someone outside of Ordu, Turkey, claiming To be me, he's probably a criminal. And and take care of yourself. Bye.
There are more ways to celebrate than ever before at the Jeep Celebration event. Hurry in for great deals today on the only brand that lets you go anywhere and do anything. And right now, get $1,500 total cash allowance on the purchase of a 2022 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4. Don't miss this great offer. Go to Jeep.com to find your local dealer. Hurry into the Jeep Celebration event today. Residency restrictions apply. Must take retail delivery by 5/2/22. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.